Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boschman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy for both the collective and each individual life path number for August 2022. So before we get into the forecast, I just want to, of course, mention that this is a general reading. So if you would like to sort of dive more deeply into your own personal energies, because they may be very different from sort of what we're looking at collectively or what you're even looking at from a collective life path energy, then please book some time with me. I do offer month ahead forecast, personal month ahead forecast, as well as year ahead forecasts, which again are tuned into your personal numerology and your personal energies. And then, of course, I also offer coaching with numerology, your numerology reports. There's a whole plethora of offerings on my website. So if you're interested in working with me and again, diving deeper into your own numerology and personal energies, then book some time with me. I would love to work with you. Okay, so August 2022, we are working with a 14-5 energy. Now, those of us who have a lot of sort of predominant 5 energies throughout our reports, throughout our charts, this is sort of going to be more, it's just going to be more of what we're sort of used to. We're very familiar with this energy, so we can kind of adapt to it and move with the punches. But it's still going to be important to understand that we're getting a heavy dose of this month. And so just to be prepared and so to be able to work with it to the best of our abilities. Those of you who don't have a lot of 5s within your chart, this can be, sometimes 5 energy can be it can feel a little disruptive. It can feel very transformative. It can feel as if sort of the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. But it can also sort of bring more spice into your life. It can bring about this desire for freedom, to break free, to move beyond the restrictions, to travel, to explore. It's a very big, fast-moving energy. So it can be a lot to sort of wrap your head around and your energy around if you're not used to working with it. So, but it is very much working for us as opposed to against us. A lot of times with 5 energy, it tries to move us abruptly sometimes to where it is that we need to be on our journey. So if we've got distracted or we're procrastinating, the 5 energy is so good about sort of coming in like this big gust of wind to lift us up and put the wind in our sails to get us moving again. So it is very, very positive energy, but it can be a lot to work with. So let's look at the forecast. So this can be a cycle when we are forced to sort of see things from a new perspective, because we're not only working with the 5 energy, we're working with the influencing energy of the 14. So this is also, I've sort of marinated that into this forecast as well. So we can be kind of asked to see things from a new perspective through new clarity coming in or new experiences that help us to better understand a situation. So these new experiences may have us reviewing past behavior to see if there's things that we want to approach differently. This is very powerful energy. So this cycle can highlight areas where we may need to choose to modify our lifestyle in some way to get different results than what we have been seeing. There's a lot of sort of personal responsibility that's sort of, again, included in this energy, right? So this is big, explosive, and expansive energy, and desires that we didn't even know that we had can surface now. The more that we can sort of ground ourselves and keep checking in with the reality of the situation, that's really, really important to remember, like to keep checking in with the reality, because 5 energy can have you thinking about, dreaming really big and using that big imagination and going after those big goals, which is great. But we can often lose sight of the reality of the situation and what we're actually working with. And so it's important to keep coming back to that. I kind of sometimes think of 5 energy as being very similar to like Uranus energy in astrology. It's got a lot of the same kind of dynamic influences. So anyway, so again, the more that we can ground ourselves and keep checking in with the reality of the situation, the less likely we are to sort of get swept up into something that's not truly aligned with us and our goals. So pay attention to, again, like what comes in for you this month. Not to say that new relationships that come in this month or that sort of get springboarded this month won't last. It's very possible that they could, and it could be that this energy is coming in to sort of facilitate that. But it's also possible that we're putting on 6 layers of rose-colored glasses and sort of getting enamored with maybe somebody or something that's not necessarily the best long-term fit. So just kind of keep that in mind. And that's what I say, keep coming back to the reality of the situation, right? Try to find a way to marry both those that more idealistic viewpoint and the reality, and then you'll have like a healthy balance. So this can be incredibly creative energy. So this can be a very creative period where sort of we move the magic of the imagination into something more tangible within the physical reality. So this is very supportive energy for unconventional thinking and creating as far outside of the box as your imagination wants to take you. So play in the realm of creativity as much as possible, while also keeping yourself grounded as much as possible. So again, you're finding the balance between the two and having them work together with synastry, right? Like this can be such an incredibly powerful, creative period if we work with the energy in a very balanced way. So moderation, as I always say with 5 energy, is going to be key for the best results, right? For the most beneficial results of this energy. This can also be a profitable time for commercial, sort of seeing more money and business dealings. So anything that you have to do, like any kind of interaction or any kind of, just any kind of interaction that you have or transaction that you have that's commercial, around money, around business dealings, can be very profitable at this time. Just make sure that you're slowing down and paying attention to all of the details and the possible outcomes or scenarios before fully committing or signing your name to anything. And so I want to repeat that because I think it's really, really important, especially when we're working with 5 energy, because we don't have like any kind of 4 energy here, although we might have some through the illuminations of the full moon or the new moon. I can't remember. But 4 energy is like the details. 5 energy is just, let's go. It's so big and expansive that a lot of times it can lose sight of those details, right? The finer print. So again, slow down, pay attention to all of the details and the possible outcomes or scenarios before fully committing or signing your name to anything. So again, it's not like you want to be the Debbie Downer or, be pessimistic or whatever. It's again, bringing that realism into the situation to be like, okay, this is the risk. This is what could potentially come from that risk. This is the potential outcomes. And this is the scenarios that I could be facing if I take this risk. Is it worth that to me? Right. So there just needs to be kind of this, in the midst of all of this big energy, these periods of checking in and making sure that, the route that you're taking or the risks that you're taking are what you want to be taking, or that you're open to, that you're okay. You've explored the possible outcomes and you're okay with those. You might not want to have to deal with those possible outcomes, but you've evaluated them and you can work with them, right? 14-5 energy can bring big hopes and huge aspirations that make it really easy to sort of disregard or overlook possible catastrophic outcomes. And so that's what I mean. It's like, yes, take a risk, but be sure you're well aware of what the potential risks are before saying yes. And of course, it's life, so we don't always know everything that could possibly happen. I think that's implied, right? But it's about doing your best to try to do the research, just to make sure that you have an understanding of what could potentially go wrong, and are you able to work with that, right? If that were to happen, if the worst case scenario were to occur, can you handle that? Can you work with that? If the risk is too great, then you may want to modify it. So modify the situation, modify the opportunity, modify whatever you need to modify, so that if things do go sideways, then you can somewhat easily dust yourself off and start over without too much devastation, right? You don't want to do anything that if things go sideways, it's going to set you back so far that you're now digging yourself out of a hole to try to recover. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, just keep your head about you and just be mindful, right? Just do the research. Just make sure that you're fully educated and fully aware of the potentiality of what could come from these big risks. But don't let that scare you. Like if you do the research and you say, okay, you know what, this is the risk. Yeah, it would suck, but I am fully capable of overcoming it, whatever. It might be a little bit of a setback, but it's not going to devastate me or my family. Go for it, right? Because it's not meant to put fear in you to not do the things that your soul wants to do. It's just to be well educated to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for potential failure, right? Because it also, things with big risks, right? Things with the potential for a big risk, right? Also have the potential for not only like big devastation, but big wins, right? And so you just have to look at it for your own situation and see, what are you willing to say yes to? What are you willing to work with if it goes sideways? So competitive situations can also surface under this energy. So if that happens, try to keep those interactions light and playful. That's going to be really, really important, because otherwise you're inviting in conflict and chaos that can arise very quickly and unnecessarily. So choose how you participate, as always, with this energy. And as always, moderation is going to be key. The more that you can bring in moderation, continue to find your balance, continue to remain centered, then you are going to benefit from this energy in spades. I mean, there's just so much potential here to really flourish under this energy, but just remain as grounded as possible as you play in this 5 energy. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at each individual life path number now. Life path number 6. So I pulled an animal spirit message for you all, and you got puffin spirit. It's the sweetest little bird. So if you don't know anything about, or if you haven't seen puffins or don't know what puffins are, I would encourage you to just do an online search for puffins. They are so just the quirkiest little birds. But what I love about them and what I love about this message is I feel like this is coming through at the perfect time, just because of some of the energy that you're working with this month that I'll talk about in just a moment. But puffin energy is bringing in the message of reminding you of the importance for being childlike, not childish, but childlike, to have and hold on to the wonders of life and the world and your imagination, to trust, more openly, more freely, to not be so cynical necessarily, right? And the beauty of freedom of creativity, freedom of expression, freedom of individuality, whatever it is that you feel like you are being restricted, or again, self-imposed restrictions where you're holding yourself back from something because of some of the stories we tell ourselves to hold ourselves back, right? Puffin is coming through to remind you that there is a childlike innocence to all of us that just never goes away. We can sometimes bury it with, the trials and the tribulations and the obligations of life. But it's always there. There's always that energy there that wants to come out, that wants to play, that wants to be acknowledged and entertained. And so you are definitely getting the green light to incorporate puffin energy as much as possible this month, as much as possible, to remember sort of the lighter side of things. We can find sort of lightness, we can find joy, we can find it, or even if it's not joy, we can find some levity in any situation. And I would say to challenge yourself to do that when a challenging situation comes up. Challenge yourself to find the levity within it so that you can lift the vibration, right? Like, you have the power to do that. You absolutely have the power to do that. It's an energy and it's always present, and you have the power to do that. And I do think that Some of the things that come in for you this month may feel a little bit challenging, may feel like you're, hitting a brick wall, whatever. But I think that's why it's so beautiful that Puffin has come in, because it's a reminder of your power of, you can change the energy of a situation in a heartbeat. You might not be able to change the physicality of the situation, but you can change the energy of a situation in a heartbeat. You have the power to do that. And so again, Puffin is just reminding you of the importance of tapping into that childlike energy, the wonder, seeing things through like the innocence of a child. Whatever you need to do, again, to be able to trust more freely, to step into more expansive,ness, more freedom, right? To allow yourself to feel that, where you don't feel so restricted or so bogged down or so burdened. I think that's going to be really, really important. So I encourage you to remember Puffin energy as you move through the month of August. Okay, so for 6s, not only are you working with the energy of the 5, as we all are collectively, but you're also working with this undercurrent energy of an 11-2, which is master level energy. So this month, you may face some unexpected tests or challenges to sort of help you to up level in some area in your life, some area where you have maybe felt stuck or again, sort of overly burdened. And I think that's why it's so funny that Puffin comes in with the message of freedom, because again, these tests or these challenges are highlighting for you where it is that maybe you have let yourself become stagnant, or your situation become stagnant, or where you are, again, overburdening yourself, saying yes when maybe you really want to be saying no, whatever the case may be. So I think that the tests and the challenges that you may face this month, just remember that they're trying to highlight for you somewhere where you have the power to change the energy, right? And then in turn, eventually change the situation. So I also want to mention that, so with this 11-2 energy, so obviously, you're also working with the 5 energy. So there's going to potentially be big changes to reignite a sense of passion and desire in some area of your life. So again, we go back to Puffin spirit, couple that with the 11 energy, and it's kind of like the universe saying to you, where have you ignored your passion? Where have you ignored what brings you joy? And sacrificed that for the self-imposed obligations or restrictions or whatever the case may be. So I do think that this month is going to highlight for you sort of where you can bring in some more passion, where you can reignite that passion, that desire. New ideas may come in for you, new sources of passion, whatever. And I would definitely say run with that. Go with it. Free yourself. Allow yourself to feel that and to, embark on this new journey, whatever this is. It's more freeing. This energy is sort of the fuel to the fire around what you want to accomplish. So, the key message is life isn't only about work and paying bills, right? And obligation and responsibility. Balance is key. So ask yourself this month, as you're running through your routines, as you're saying yes to things that you don't want to say yes to, as you're overburdening yourself, as you are, again, just continuing to show up to those responsibilities that may or may not be actual responsibilities of yours. Ask yourself, how can I spice things up? How can I switch things up? How can I do something that I'm more passionate about, or at least invest more time and energy into what I'm more passionate about? Of course, sometimes we have to do what we have to do before we can do what we want to do, right? I think it's Oprah that said that. That's so accurate. That's so true, right? This is life. There's the reality of it, but there's also something to be said about, prioritizing and understanding that it may feel like all of our obligations and all of our responsibilities are like top of the list, but are they really? Are they really? Or is a good portion of that things that we have committed to for somebody else that we did not have the resources, the emotional capability or bandwidth to be able to take on? And so I do think that this month is going to ask you to just make space for yourself, to have fun, to feel more free, to do the things that you enjoy, that bring you passion. And if it's around a relationship, then it may ask you, how can you spice this relationship back up, right? Like, how can you contribute in a way? What kind of conversation can you have with your partner to, again, sort of bring the heat back in to the relationship, if that's something that you want to do. So really beautiful energy. I do feel like there's going to be, I feel like if a challenge comes up for you this month, it really is probably highlighting for you where it is, again, where you're restricting yourself, or where you're being restricted in some way, and it's encouraging you to find ways to break free from that, or at least modify it in a way so that it no longer feels like a burden, because that's not sustainable. That's not sustainable physically or mentally or emotionally or spiritually. So the energy is just helping you through challenges to face whatever that is that you need to face, and to come up with a solution to do things differently, so that, again, you can embody Puffin spirit and bring back the passion and do the things that you enjoy doing, and say yes to the things that you have the capacity to say yes to, and say no to the things that you don't, right? So overall, beautiful energy this month for you all sixes. I hope it's a fun, childlike, exciting month for you all. And honestly, you're working also with this 5 energy, which is very childlike. It's very free-spirited. It's very much about freedom and all of that. So you've already got all this energy behind you to help you to do this. You just have to give yourself permission and then work with the energy. All right. Take care, sixes. Bye for now.